just 1 second.
Okay.
So should I call Mike and have him buy you a new computer? Is that the issue, or?
I think we're up for a refresh next year.
Tell him this will be his retirement present to you.
Okay, we're all good.
Great. So I'll call the meeting to order, and if we could have roll call.
David Allen,
Here.
Matt Tuccini,
Here.
Rob Baranek,
Here.
Dennis Smith,
Here.
Kelly New. Here. We have a quorum.
Great. Good to see everybody. We can get started. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Moved.
Dennis, looking for a second. Matt, good. Any additions, questions on the agenda? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Next is the consent agenda, which is just the approval of the minutes for the March 18th meeting. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Callie, looking for a second. Dennis, any additions or problems, comments, issues on the minutes from anybody? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Okay, next we have the treasurer's report. Mary?
Good morning. So I'll try and keep it brief so we can cover just a few items in the financial summary. Just reviewing for the month of March, we had $32,266.76 in expenditures. Kind of detailed that in that financial summary cover sheet that I provide to you guys. So as that rolls into, we are 6 months into our fiscal year, and as of March 31st, our expenditures exceed our revenues by $645,000. However, we have had adequate fund and cash balance to carry us forward, and that fund balance is sitting at, looks like I didn't update some of the figures, but that's sitting at 4 million, let me make sure I give you the right number, 451,475.10. And a detail of that is below. So the number that's in the narrative part of this cover sheet is correct. Looks like my calculation didn't total up there properly, and a breakdown of that is also allocated. We got about $2.1 million for bond-related activities. These are our bond payments and items like that. And $2.3 million is left over for covering the rest of this year's financial expenditures and budget, as well as carrying into the next fiscal year. I did have the chance to kind of sit down last night with the budget and review where we're sitting at, because we have a few debt service payments that will be coming due in the month of May. And we're still sitting right on budget. Captures have been going on accordingly, and I will have a couple of budget amendments that I'll bring to you probably next month, because of course with new projects like Customs House and UP Bank, we did not budget for those because they were new projects after we adopted our budget. So that's where we're sitting at with the financial summary. I'll pause there if you have any questions about current activities before I review quickly the audit.
Any questions for Mary? I don't see any, so go ahead, Mary.
Great. So during the month of March, we also completed the audit for September 30th, 2020. A lot of the information in that report that I had given to you is going to be pretty dated for you guys because you've seen it on a month-to-month basis over the last fiscal year. So what's going to be of semblance to you, something that you're used to seeing, would be the back part of the audit report, which is all those individual statements. And that kind of shows how each project has been moving along on a project-by-project basis. Then what the audit does is it kind of goes through this whole reconciliation calculation to say, okay, how does the brownfield look in totality so that we can compare it to other authorities and agencies of its like. And that's where we get into those front statements. Roundabout pages, I think I threw in there pages 10 and 11 are like the main part of the audited statements that others are going to look at when they're comparing apples to apples, so to speak. So by that point, it's pretty diluted for you guys, but just to let you know, the audit went fine. Everything is being reported properly. They noted no problems with our internal control structure. The way that the board expects these finances to operate are moving through fluidly. There were no difficulties in the audit. There are no material misstatements. We had no disagreements, and they had no other findings. So it went pretty smoothly, considering that we had to conduct the audit entirely electronically. They were never in the building. So we learned how to share files electronically and stuff like that, and it went through really well. So
That's good news.
yeah.
Any questions for Mary on the audit or any discussion about that?
I just have one. Mary, does this roll up into the bigger piece of the city budget, or does it stand on its own?
So the report you have is a standalone. We've decided to do that probably about 4 or 5 years ago because
Okay.
we've been issuing our own bonds. This report, those first 2 statements that you see in the front, or the first 4 main statements that you see in the front of the document, that gets rolled into the city's audited financial report as well, because the Brownfield is a component unit of the city.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
I just want to add that auditors never seem to see anything positive. There's like an unqualified opinion. It doesn't sound very good, but that's the best thing that you want. And also there's no problems, and that's the best that we can do. So I wanted to compliment Mary for all the work that she's done there. This is the best outcome that can happen. It doesn't sound very good the way that the language is, or it doesn't sound spectacular. It sounds like you're kind of meeting the minimum, but you're actually meeting the maximum. So just wanted to compliment Mary and the city staff about what a great job they do in a pretty big, complex budget for the Brownfield.
Mac, I've always considered the best compliment that I can ever receive is competent. So
Yes,
this is
yeah.
reminds me of that.
Yeah, my brother was an umpire, and so if nobody screamed at him, he had a good game. So that's kind of I think the way it works. But.
So why don't we get a motion for approving the financial report for this month? Matt, looking for a second. Callie, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Do we need to take any kind of board action on the audit? Do we need to accept it or anything, or is it? I assume we don't have to.
No, I'd say received, reviewed, filed will be just fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so next we're to public comment, and I want to welcome Abby Hansen from Eagle. And Abby, it doesn't have to be a formal public comment, but I'd love to hear a little bit about you and what your role is, and welcome to the meeting.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for having me this morning. I'm happy to be here. And I am the new Brownfield coordinator for the UP. So I'm located here in Marquette. New to Eagle, not new to Marquette. I've been here since 2005 or so. So I have a pretty good lay of the land, I think. But I'm really excited to be here in this new role. I've had some great conversations with Mac. I was able to connect with Sherry as well a while back. I guess I'm new to Eagle as of the end of February. So I also had the pleasure of being part of the tail end of the approval of the Act 381 work plan for the UP State Lake. So I'm looking forward to being part of additional projects here moving forward. My role with Eagle, I guess, in a nutshell, is to kind of be both a technical and financial resource to help get brownfield redevelopment projects off the ground. So I'm here if you ever have questions, needs for outreach, anything like that, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to share my contact information. I know Mac and Sherry already have it. But of course, if you have any questions or if there's anything I can do to assist in any way, I'm happy to do so.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions or anything for Abby? Yeah, Matt.
Maybe I should know this. Is this a new role that's
specific to Brownfield?
It is not a new role.
Okay.
The representative coordinator that was actually in the UP, she may have been here about a year and a half ago. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, Megan Weber.
Yep.
I'm not sure we had contact with Megan. We just didn't have an Eagle project right in that kind of time frame, I don't think so.
Yeah. And if you happen to meet Mike Gurney at any point, he's the Brownfield coordinator out of Kalamazoo. And he was covering the UP during that period. So it's not a new role, but it has been empty for some time.
So we would expect to see more of you than the last person.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm here and I have no intentions of going anywhere. So
Anybody else?
Welcome.
And
thank you very much.
I'll just for our purposes, as Megan mentioned, she kind of came in on the tail end of the Act 3D1 work plans. So any of the Eagle Act 3D1 work plans for environmental eligible activities will go to Abby, and she'll marshal and foster that through the staff for the technical review and get back with us. So while I think Mike signed the letter here that Abby will be marshaling all of the Act 3D1 work plan approvals. In addition, any projects that may have an opportunity for a Brownfield grant or loan, when we were kind of working on some of the projects, there wasn't much money available. Now the state gets refreshed every year for about $10 million or so. When we have a project that has more significant environmental issues, Founders Landing would have been a perfect candidate for that, had there been money at that time. But when we have one of those projects that has significant environmental issues, maybe along with a little bit of asbestos abatement and demolition, then we can interface with Abby to see what opportunities there might be for that grant or loan side of the piece.
Hey, Mac, what's the split then? Is it non-environmental eligible activities that would not be under Eagle's purview, or is it something else?
Yeah, the Eagle grant, and Abby may follow up on this, but they don't want to have more than 50% of the Eagle Brownfield grant pay for non-environmental eligible activities. So it has to be at least, $100,000 of environmental activities to get $100,000 of demo activities. And typically, I think the strongest projects are with majority of environmental activities and a little bit of demo. So you may have a small building on a contaminated site that does. So, Abby, did I reflect that accurately?
Yep, that sounds spot on.
So then can we go back and seek reimbursement from Eagle on things like the vapor barrier mitigation for Gaines Township or the Gaines townhouses and stuff like that? Or does that all have to be done up front?
All has to be done up front.
Okay.
It's much like many grant programs that no expenditures can be made until all the contracts are in place. And for the Brownfield grant program, there's also a work plan that details the specific activities. So all that needs to be done up front. Yeah, and in addition, any of the environmental eligible activities for Brownfield TIF also have to be pre-approved. There are some things that we can do, like investigations, due care plans, things like that, that don't require specific state tax capture approval. But if there's going to be a vapor mitigation system or any excavation of soil, that all has to be pre-approved through a letter like we had for UP State Bank before the work is conducted.
So we would have to do something like that, let's say for the Dow site, if somebody went forward as part of the site plan and everything else we were doing, that would be the entire package. Eagle would get a piece of that package to approve or not approve.
Yep, exactly. We were
funding.
Exactly. They could be able to go through the phase 1, phase 2 baseline environmental assessment for acquisition, the due care plan to figure out what precautions they need to take. But once they start digging or putting in vapor mitigation, before that time, we need Abby and her staff's approval for the Act 3D1 work plan.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Do we have anyone else for public comment today? Sean, is there anybody else?
Do not.
I'll
Okay,
just briefly introduce Eric Peterson with Envirologic. He's going to talk or just be on call for the Fairfield project. So
great. Okay. I have no announcements today, so we can go right to the report from the executive director, Sherry.
Morning, thank you. Basically, this month's been like last month, doing the same things, working on a couple of projects with communication with the city staff and MAC and some developers. And want to also thank Rob and Kelly for re-upping and hanging in there with us, being part of our amazing team. Thanks for doing that. Congratulations. I think that's about it. And as to the other reports, I know we'll go through them, but the only one that I've had any contact with in response has been Customs House. And I think I had forwarded the information on the website that we can sort of keep tabs on it, but things seem to be going along well on that. So, and I've had some conversations with Mitch Irwin at the Fairfield project, and it's my understanding that they're looking still at some type of an event in May to open up or do a ribbon cutting or something along that line. So hopefully we'll all have an opportunity to see it firsthand. And I think you've all seen how quickly things are going on there. So that's basically it. Any questions for me?
No questions? Okay. Thanks, Sherry. And so you covered your part of the updates as well, project updates. Mac, do you have any additional project updates other than the one that's in our packet for Upper Peninsula State Bank? Is there on any of the other projects? Do you have any updates? No? Okay. So let's just go right to 9F, which is Upper Peninsula State Bank, and you'll see there's a packet in here. Mac, could you give us a little background on this? This is the 3-1 work plan review that was in our packet. And you're on mute.
As Abby mentioned, we did provide the Act 3D1 work plan to Eagle, primarily for vapor mitigation system for the UP State Bank. There were screening levels of exceedances of vapor and walk through the now fairly detailed process to look at vapor mitigation. Eagle understandably wants to make certain if they're going to be signing off on something that it's appropriate and has all of the matters, all of the items included in it. We went through something similar on the Fairfield Inn as well. So it is a detailed process, a little bit more extensive than kind of doing soil disposal, or other kinds of activities or engineered controls. So walking through the process, they did identify the eligible activities, walk through, approve the plan, approve the budget that was there. And so able to get this approval as of March 30th. And I think that afternoon, actually, for timing, they began the work on the UP State Bank for the installation of vapor mitigation. So I appreciated the staff's work, their Eagle staff work in dealing with that. You may recall we may have bumped up close to the 60-day requirement, legislative requirement from the time that we submit the Act 3D1 work plan request. Through kind of an arrangement, we withdrew that request and then resubmitted it. So we wouldn't bump up against that, because had they bumped up against that, they would have denied it and had to spend a whole bunch of time explaining why, and they were just about ready to approve it. So just a little administrative piece there. So I think, kind of in the future, when we start talking about this, and Abby and I have talked a little bit about this, is that when we have these projects, we'll get all of the packets, all the information ready, much the same way that we do with the strategic fund for non-environmental, make sure that we have a good start on the review before we officially submit the transmittal letter that starts to collect ticking. So, but this is very good news. We did get state tax capture for Eagle, and I'm glad to say that Eagle seems to be easier than MEDC to get state support. So on some projects, I'll say. So, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sean?
Mac, does this have to go before the city commission?
Nope.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, 3D1.
And we don't have to take any action on this today, right? This is just a thing that
Nope.
happened.
It's administrative. Yeah, it's for
Right.
information. Yep. Wanted to include that and include it in the record as well for the Brownfield Authority that it's there. So.
And Abby, do you have anything more you want to say about this, or?
Not much more than Mac mentioned. As he said, it's kind of a detailed process. So moving forward on any additional Act 381 plans, especially if there's VI involved, I'm more than happy to work with you in formulating drafts and answering questions before the actual submission. Our hands are kind of tied with those deadlines. It's in the statute. So I know with the VI process specifically, that approval process is continually evolving, and we're always trying to fine tune and make that better. But as it stands, like Mac mentioned, it does take some time on our end. So thanks for working with us there, and happy it worked out.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Okay. We have no unfinished business, so we can move to new business. We're now at 11A, and we have this item that I think Eric Peterson is here for today as well. Mac, do you want to give us a quick introduction on this?
Sure, absolutely. And Eric is here to answer questions if there are any in that situation. This is kind of the standard, sort of the next to last phase of brownfield projects where all the documentation was included. We did amend the brownfield plan to provide for parcel 2 redevelopment, which was not necessarily anticipated. Parcel 2 was part of the original brownfield plan as eligible property, but we didn't identify any development on that back in 2009. The projects came forward both with Marquette Opportunity and the Fairfield Inn, as well as the townhomes, to come in and request allocations for eligible activity. That was approved and included within your packet for the project. It provided up to about $200,000 for environmental activities and about $425,000 for non-environmental activities. There was a work plan that was submitted to Eagle, and we did receive approval on October 11th for that capture. And I provided sort of the detailed invoice summary. It doesn't come through very well there. I hope you can zoom it on the digital if you have any questions about it, but it's the detailed calculations for that. So as I mentioned, the Eagle Act 381 work plan is approval for all, is necessary for all activities started prior to conducting the activities. This is actually the third one for Founders Landing. We did one for Hampton Inn for the first development in parcel 3 and a couple of other activities in parcel 3B, where one Marquette Place is now. There was a second Act 381 work plan for more specific activities for one Marquette Place and parcel 3B, and then this was submitted for primarily for the vapor mitigation system at Fairfield Inn. We did include MEDC, or now the Michigan Strategic Fund, but back then it was MEGA, provided a expansive approval for the full extent of non-environmental eligible activities up to $19 million. There isn't any required new approval for MSF. We have an extension to be able to conduct the eligible activities, and we have the flexibility for line item adjustments within that area. I did make just a small adjustment. It came in right close to budget, but just $57.41 over budget. So that was deducted from what we had originally approved in both the Act 381 work plan and in the application and project amendment. There was a request in the original request for stormwater management as well as special foundations in the project. You'll see the special foundations are included, but there was no allocation for special foundations. And there were some site preparation activities that were necessary in terms of the eligible activities on the site and the installation. And so those additional costs for winter conditions primarily have been allocated into the site preparation line item. So we did have some costs for work plan approval that were requested in there. There's an allocation in the plan for $5,000, and that was kind of laid out to pay for my exorbitant fees. We didn't have an allocation for the work. Those costs could have been allocated back up because most of that was in terms of the design for the piece, but that was over budget. So as a result, those work plans were, or those costs were not recommended. So kind of the following piece is allocation of approval of $525,000, $525,098.06 for as the long-term eligible activity obligation for parcel 2B. That will be paid for strictly from the revenues from parcel 2B in accordance with the development reimbursement agreement. And we're requesting approval of this long-term eligible activity obligation. And happy to answer any questions or if there's any specific details that Eric can respond to.
If I could, I'll just jump in and make a quick comment. And speaking for Marquette Opportunity, we obviously greatly appreciate the support of the Brownfield Authority. And personally, as a consultant, I would just say, I know you folks already know this working with Mac, but I have greatly appreciated working with Mac and the role he plays for your community. And so it's been helpful for me for this project. And I think, frankly, he advocates and represents for you folks well. And as long as I'm being gratuitous, I also think it's great that you got Abby here and keeping Eagle kind of plugged into what you're doing and the resources that they can bring to your projects. It's a good thing to have her present at these meetings.
Thanks, Eric. That check that we talked about is in the mail.
I had one question on the second table in this packet. I noticed that you've got the peer reuse, the budget and the estimate. And although there is a balance, which is shown at the bottom, you didn't include it in the, the balancing out of this column. That I assume that's because we don't yet know for sure what the peer reuse is going to cost. Is that right?
Yeah. From the budget to the estimate, is that right? For the peer reuse
from the budget
line?
to the estimate.
Yeah,
Right.
that's really the case. That was the current estimate. It hadn't gone through permitting yet. And so I didn't think, it wasn't like the final bid document. It was an engineer's estimate, hadn't gone through permitting yet, maybe some additional costs there. So I recommended not changing that or allocating that budget balance to anything else, just leaving it
Right.
for there, but providing it for information.
And I assume, well, I won't put it that way. How safe is the assumption that the actual cost, it might not be exactly, $5,715,000. What's the probability that it could actually go over by more than that 742,000 difference? I mean, it seems like that's a low probability, but if that happened, what would we do about, we're reallocating. What if we needed some of that reallocation for the peer reuse? I know we have some cushion there, but.
Yeah, right now we're allocating that full 6.4 to the pier. And so, that I think, and Sean may be able to, update on any activities that are happening with the pier, but that certainly is the top end target budget. I think that's been allocated and what the city is working towards under. My sense is they would probably use some value engineering to cut out some items if that was over budget, or look at those items, from it not included in this report, but the board took subsequent action to provide support or an allocation for the US 41 infrastructure. So we really have all of the infrastructure allocated under the plan. So I think the city would either need to make the choice of leaving that and not getting reimbursed for all of those costs, or reducing the costs. There is an option to amend the plan, but that for local only. But I'm not certain that would be done as well. So, but I think right now we're looking at that 6.4 as the budget for the pier, and my sense is that the city will be value engineering to try and get at or under that number. So maybe Sean can fill in some details.
That's correct. We're very aware of the budget of this project, and it's undergone significant revisions over the past few years between permitting issues and now budget issues. But we're not looking to increase the budget. We're looking to make it fit. So,
all right, good. Any other questions from other people? Yeah, Callie.
I just have a quick question that's somewhat related, but just if you could briefly talk about I see the Barriga Street extension is in here, about the street connect or pedestrian connectivity of the site as you're thinking about infrastructure improvements.
Yes, the Bergen Street extension actually kind of includes, and that's a little bit combined now with the Customs House project and finishing that Customs House. It includes some improvements to the trail along the network, and so there is the network along Lakeshore Boulevard, or the trail along Lakeshore Boulevard that not from this project, but will be enhanced as part of the overall Founders project as well in access. And we have the seawall boardwalk as well as some pedestrian access, if that responds to your question, Cal.
Are there sidewalks to the actual site?
I don't know that. I would presume so, only, through site plan approval. I would imagine that there is pedestrian access into and out of the site, but.
Are you asking if there's going to be pedestrian access from the Barriga Street extension to the pier?
More so like from the bike lane or from the Barriga Street into the actual Fairfield site.
Oh.
Like, for instance, I just walked to the Hampton Inn and I had to like cross berms and like there wasn't pedestrian connectivity at all.
Yeah, I believe when we redo Barriga Street, that part right there, like there are going to be sidewalks put in and it will connect to the pier. I don't have the design in front of me, but I believe that's the plan.
Yeah.
I think, Kelly, you raised a good question in terms of pedestrian access to the Fairfield and the Hampton and all of the other pieces, not just the pier. That's kind of a zoning piece, and I don't have the site plan kind of in my brain about that, but I think we can come back and look at that and see if some, improvements are necessary for access, if not just some small areas, but certainly I understand the point that you're making is all along the pathway. Can we get into all of those pieces? People at the Fairfield, can they walk downtown, without having to stroll through a parking lot? So we'll take a look and interface with Dennis on that and sort of look at that opportunity and see if there's some improvements that need to be made as a result, and maybe able to bring that back. I will say that some of this, pieces, these are budget numbers. And so we'll look at actual cost as they come in. They may be lower or higher. There may be some balance that we can reallocate as well to doing those things. But that's a great point. Definitely look at that.
Any other questions? Mac and Sherry, you're looking for us to take action today according to this recommendation. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So then I'm looking for a motion to accept the Brownfield project applications for HRC Founders Landing LLC for the redevelopment of parcel 2A of the townhouses for the Marquette Opportunity LLC, for redevelopment of parcel 2B, for a hotel and parcel 2C for commercial building, authorized preparation of administrative modification for the Founders Landing amended Brownfield plan, to reallocate the budget to provide for eligible activities on parcel 2, or any other motion you'd like to make. Matt, looking for a second. Rob, any further questions or discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion passes. And I don't have to sign anything on this today, right? So I can put that over here. So we're now to approvals of various invoices, bond payments. 11B is the Huntington Bank bond payment. This looks straightforward. Do we need to say anything in particular about this, Mac? Just an approval, right? So this is, I'm looking for a motion to approve $58,800 for this. Dennis, looking for a second. Callie, any questions or discussion on this? Matt, go ahead.
I'll just say one quick thing. When I first looked at it and said, holy cow, we got 1.3 million. This is the allocation from the full city budget, capital improvement budget that is allocated to the Barriga Street Extension project. So that works out to be wonderful. We allocate certain portions of the CIP bond to Brownfield. So this is the portion for the Barriga Street Extension.
Thanks. Anything else? All in favor, raise your hand. Matt, you can raise your, yeah, good. All opposed, same sign. That passes. Sherry, this is something I can just sign and fax to you. Is that right? Okay,
Yes.
I'll do that today. Next, we have 11C. It's another approval. This one for $409,650. Mac, do we need to say anything about this?
This is the bond interest, mostly interest payment for the municipal service center bonds.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve this. Rob, in for a second. Dennis, any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Dennis, are you gonna? Yeah. All opposed, same sign. That passes. Same on this one, I can just sign and fax, right, Sherry?
Yes.
Okay, good. 11D, we have approval for $817,460. Mac, which this is DLP streets and interest in principal again.
Yes.
Looking for a motion to approve this. Callie, looking for a second. Dennis, any further questions, discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. That passes. 11E, we have max invoices, which if I'm looking at this right is it's a set of 4, which totals to $6,090. Looking for a motion to approve this. No one's gonna, yeah, we're back to this. Dennis, looking for a second. Callie, any discussion, questions? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. That passes. And that brings us to public comment again. I assume we have no further public comment. Good. Comments from directors. I'll go around the screen. Dennis, do you have anything today? You're on mute.
Just to let everybody know that on April 27th, between 1 and 3, there's a webcast on housing trends that's being kind of a combination put together by the city, the county, LSCP, and the Central Planning Unit. So it's really going to talk about housing trends, not only for the city, which is part of what we're doing is for the ad hoc thing, but also for the county and what kind of housing we need and trends, both nationally and locally, and deal with expenses and whatever. And so the speakers are Sarah Lucas, the new CEO of the Lake Superior Community Partnership, and she did a lot of this work in the Traverse City area. Ryan Sosi from the Central UP Planning and Development area. Evan Bonzel from the City Commission, who also many of you know was on this group with us. And Ann Giroux from the Marquette County Finance Director. So it's going to be a webcast from 1 to 3. I sent the information to Sherry so she can send it out. So it's open to the public. Should be fairly interesting as far as the housing trends and things that we've been seeing on the ad hoc committee. And I think the county's been looking at just what's needed, what we're going to do. A lot of it's from an economic development perspective, and a lot of this, and some of these concepts, as many of you know, or all of you know, will land in front of us on some of these things that we've kind of talked about wanting to do things to help with affordable housing or additional housing in the city of Marquette. So just thought I'd throw that out there in case anybody's got 2 hours on the 27th in the middle of the afternoon.
Thanks, Dennis. Callie? Nothing? Okay.
No, thanks.
Matt? No? Okay. And Rob? All right. Unless anybody has anything further, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.